There's a lot of different ways to make money online. And most people focus so much on the front end. They focus on strategy, they focus on launching. And when we say front end, what we're really talking about is the initial purchase. So many people focus on how do I get more people purchasing for the first time? And the conversation of now that someone's purchased, what do we do? How do we follow up? How do we get them to buy more? Or how do we get them to upgrade is not really a part of the mainstream conversation, at least from my experience. And so today what I wanted to do is give 6 different ways you can either follow up or make back-end sales to increase the profits that you see inside of your company without having to spend more on ads. So if that's interesting to you, well, keep on listening.
Hi, I'm Brandon Lucero, and you're about to experience the new way to thrive in business, entrepreneurship, and life by leaning into who you are, what you love, and standing up for what you want to create. Get ready, because this is where we go against the grain, say no to outdated society norms, and we say yes to change in order to create a happier, more fulfilled world. Welcome to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about how to make money without making more sales on the front end. And this came up because we had a discussion inside of the NGM Plus group today. So a bunch of the NGM Plusers and I hopped on a call and we just answered questions, did hot seats and all that good stuff, and dove into whatever they needed help with for, 2 or 3 hours. And there was a question that came up, which was all around how to make more money without needing more sales. And this was an idea I brought up to the group, and I wanted to dive in with you guys. The reason why it came up inside the group was because people were so focused on what the front end offer was. And when I say front end offer, what I'm really talking about is like, what is the first purchase someone makes when they come into your customer circle? And a lot of people were thinking, like, if I can just increase the amount of people buying on the front end, then I can bring in more revenue inside the group. And I just said, yeah, that's true. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, obviously we all want more sales on the front end, but if that's where most of our focus is, and what starts to happen is a lot of people start to create all these different offers on the front end. And then your messaging gets all muddied up because now you have this offer and this offer and this price point and this price point and this thing and this thing. And you have all these offers on the front end. And again, it muddies up the messaging. It muddies up the audience. And there's ways to do it right. There's ways to do it successfully. But if we're doing it just with the intention of like, this is how we're going to scale our business, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. Because what a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of revenue inside of a course or an online-based business should come from the back end. And not a lot of people talk about that. And I don't know the actual numbers, but if I was to guess how much of our revenue comes from front end versus back end, I would say maybe at least 50% comes from the back end or close to it. Meaning that we do our initial launch, people come in, it's the first time they've ever purchased with us, and then moving them through a series of upsells or renewals or whatever it may be, other offers that we have, we make more money off of those customers. We increase the customer value. So what I wanted to do is kind of talk about a couple of ways that we do it and a couple of options that you have to increase revenue inside of your company. And one of the things that you could do right now is if you're like, hey, I need like a cash infusion or I need some sales and stuff. Sometimes the easiest thing to do is to actually go back to your past customers and make them another offer. Again, not a lot of people talk about that, but they're going to be some of the easiest sales in the world. And some of the easiest sales because they already have rapport. They already understand your teaching style. They've already gotten value from you and they may want more of it. So there's a couple of ways we can do this. I'm going to also talk a little bit about follow-up process as well for the non-buyers as well. So maybe we'll start there because we're going to talk about 2 things. I'm going to talk a little bit about follow-up. So how do we follow up with people that said no to increase the front end sales? And then we're going to talk about the back end sales. Okay. So there's the 2 things we're going to talk about. A good follow-up process, let's go here. Just because someone says no Doesn't mean they're a no forever. It just means that they're a no right now. And if we have a good follow-up process, we can actually bring them back in to help them make that first front end sale. Okay. So there's two things that we want to talk about. Number one is this. I don't have a name for this. This is a new concept I'm playing around with. It's a new concept I kind of accidentally discovered inside of my own messaging, and it has to do with expectations. And when you guys do free trainings and you start to do like a webinar, or you start to do sales calls, or you start to do workshops and stuff like that, what I like to do is give people an expectation of what they should be hitting with the information that we just gave them. So anytime I like to wrap up a workshop or something, I tell people like, look, if you nail today's training and you absolutely integrate and use what we talked about today on this training, you should be able to hit X, Y, and Z. And the reason why I do this is if you set an expectation of what they should be able to hit if they do it right, and you're very strong about it. And when I strong, I mean like you tell them, remember this, write it down. Here is what you should be doing, experiencing, seeing. If you can properly take today's information and integrate it into your life or business. Now, the reason why this is so important is because what happens when they don't hit that standard, when they don't hit the expectation of what they should be hitting from the training, it creates something where they start to self-identify, I can't do this on my own, or I need more help. But this is also beautiful because what you can start to do is you can start to have a follow-up process or an email sequence after the point of what you said. So if you said in the next 7 days, you should be able to do X, Y, and Z with today's training, guess what? You're going to follow up in 7 days. Or if it's 3 days, or if it's 1 month, you don't want it to be super long, but you want it to be like a week, maybe 2, maybe a month max. But what you start to do is you start your follow-up process, whether it's text message, phone calls, emails, whatever it may be, you start the follow-up process. You can even do an email campaign. Have you been able to hit X, Y, and Z? Or it's been 7 days. Have you been able to do X? And then inside the emails, it says like, when we wrapped up the training, I said, if you were able to implement it properly, then you should have been able to hit X, Y, and Z. Have you been able to hit it? And what that does is it creates this narrative. It creates this sort of like messaging angle of, you need more help. You may not be able to do it on your own in the time frame that you want it done. And so what we can start to do is if you can set that expectation of what they should expect from the training, if done right, it creates this sort of communication angle of have you been able, and a follow-up process of have you been able to hit X, Y, and Z, because it's been 7 days and you should have if you're doing it right. If not, like book a call. See if you're someone we can help. Clearly, you understand the information, but you're not able to implement it correctly. And honestly, guys, that's the number one reason why people are going to need courses is because they have trouble implementing. Even if they understand the concepts, they're going to have trouble implementing it correctly on their own. That, in my opinion, that's one of the biggest reasons why you join a course or a program is it just speeds things up and they help you integrate it more, quickly, faster, accurately from the beginning. So that's number one. If you want better follow-up processes, set the expectation of when they should expect a certain type of result and what that result is. So it gives you this communication angle, messaging angle to reach out to whenever the time frame is right. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is actually from my good buddy, James Wedmore. He does this thing called FOMO Promo, which we also use, which is kind of along the same lines of what we're talking about a little bit. But essentially what this is after 30 days or so, you just reach out to everyone who opted in, registered, but didn't actually purchase. And you share the results of everyone who did purchase or join with those people. So it would be something like, it's been 30 days. Have you been able to fix your messaging? ? Hey, John. And the email would be like, hey, John. And 30 days ago, we opened up the cart to NGM and we noticed that you didn't enroll. I wanted to see if you were able to figure out the messaging on your own, because we've been working with a couple students and here's what they've seen in the last 30 days. And then it basically is like, if you would like to reconsider and join NGM, we're going to open it up for like 24 hours. These are the results that people have been seeing. And it's just like bam, 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 all these different results. So those are two different ways that you can follow up with leads who didn't buy in order to try to get them to reconsider or rejoin. Okay. So that's what we would call follow-up. But I want to move into the back-end sales. And there's a couple of ways that we do back-end sales. There's a couple of ways that have worked well for us. Now, I do want to give you the context. Like, we are more of a high ticket company. So our programs are like $3,000 and $12,000, so it's pretty high ticket, compared to most, I would say. So what I'm going to walk you through, is more relevant to my audience and my price points, but it doesn't mean it won't work for you, or maybe it will spark different ideas or, whatever. So here we go. Number one is if you sign up for NGM, which is just the baseline program. It's just talks about messaging and content. It doesn't talk sales or webinars or ads or any of that stuff. But if you just join the basic NGM program, which has helped a lot of people, we do a 90-day period where you can use that credit to upgrade. So what we do, or what we've decided to do this year, is like any price that you paid for NGM, whether you're on a payment plan or you paid in full, whatever you have paid us for NGM, we will credit you if you decide to upgrade into NGM Plus. Meaning that, let's just say you joined NGM at $3,000, and let's say NGM Plus is $12,000. We would let you join NGM Plus for $9,000. Now, you can join NGM Plus at any time, any point that you want. That's totally fine. But to use your $3,000 credit, we give people 90 days to reconsider. And the reason why we do that is, the way I look at it, my perspective on it, is that had they just joined NGM Plus from the get-go, from the launch, it's the same difference. Either way, we're getting the $12,000 for the NGM Plus program. And when you join NGM Plus, you get NGM anyways for life. So it's the same difference. But we give people a 90-day credit to kind of reconsider. Also, 90 days is kind of enough time to make a decision on, or a realization of, do I need help implementing this or do I not? Because what happens is, a lot of people will come into NGM thinking, oh, I can just do it on my own. I don't need all the extra calls or the one-on-ones or whatever it may be, right? They just think I can figure it out on my own. But what we realize is, once people get in the doors and it's been like 60 days, 90 days, they start to realize, maybe I do need a little bit of help. So when we start an email campaign or promotion to be like, hey, this credit is still there, but it is expiring. If you feel like you need more help, it's such a great angle to take when we want to do some upgrades and upsells. So we want to offer that, because the last thing I want is for someone to get into NGM for $3,000 and then realize they need help and then have to pay an additional $12,000. Now it's like $15,000. We don't want that. So we give our peeps, we give our customers, our clients, that 90-day grace period. And we just have an email campaign that goes out around the 90-day mark. So it's like a couple of emails that prepare them, like, hey, this is what's happening. This is what you have available to you. And then it's like a couple of emails sequence of like, okay, tomorrow's the last day, or 48 hours, tomorrow's the last day. Okay, today's the last day to use your credit. And we always get a few upgrades. I don't remember the actual numbers of the last one that we did, but the credit expiring worked really well for us. And it just makes people feel good. Like, they don't have to repay the full price when they come back in. We can get them the help that they need. They don't it's just good all around, but it's also great because it gives us some urgency or scarcity, because the credit goes away. We give people 90 days, which we found is a sufficient amount of time. So that's something you guys could do too. If you have different levels or tiers of your program, is offer some sort of credit on what they've already paid you if they decide to upgrade. So that's option number one. Number two is probably pretty straightforward. This isn't rocket science in my opinion, but just make your customers different offers. I haven't taken on one-on-one clients in a really long time. And we've been thinking about either having like a mastermind for higher end people, like the 7-figure entrepreneur, or we've been thinking about doing like more one-on-ones. But if I was to do that, I would just go to our customers first. I wouldn't even like email the list or anything like that. I would just have a higher end, higher tier offer. email it straight to our customers, make it to our customers because they're the ones that are most likely to buy or to upgrade. And we would just make them more offers. We've also been playing around the idea of having a low-end membership site. Maybe in 2024, we'll have something like that, but it would go to our customers first. When we launched it and grandfather people in, we would literally just present it to our customers, and we're at a point where we have a lot of like thousands of customers now. So it makes a lot of sense to do that. But even if you just have a handful of customers, always go to your current customers with more offers, because there's no ad spend. There's no launch. There's no like big presentation or anything like that. I mean, you could do it that way if you wanted to, depending on what you're trying to do, but sometimes you don't have to. Sometimes you just like send an email and be like, here's what we're creating next. Like, or here's this new mastermind we're putting together, or here's this new group we're putting together. Like, we want to come to you guys first because you're our customers. Like, who wants in? And so you could go that route too, just more offers. Number 3, which is really, I think, highly overlooked by a lot of people, is renewals. And renewal, what I mean by renewals is like if you have some sort of time-based sort of program. So like NGM Plus is a 6-month program. And when your 6 months is up, we have a process to get you to renew and do another 6 months with us. And I think a lot of people either don't focus on renewals, they have a broken process, they have a really weak process, which is kind of like, do you want to renew? No? Okay, that's all right. We have a process in place, and we're still developing it, but our goal is to increase our renewal rate. And I think it's very highly undervalued and underlooked by a lot of people, because again, if you're doing high ticket and you're working on a renewal process, there's no ad spend. If your course is great, your support is great, you're getting them results, the chances of them saying yes goes up. So the structure of your program has a lot to do with it. The offer that you make, how you structure the renewal, how you pitch it, all of that stuff all plays a role in how many renewals you're going to get. The way I look at it is if you do $1 million a year or 100,000 a year, whatever, let's just go with $1 million, and you have a 6-month program and you're doing $1 million a year off of front end sales. And let's just say 25% renew, which we want to try to get ours. I think our goal is 50%, but let's just say 25%. You're basically making an extra $250,000 a year by doing not really anything. It doesn't cost you anything. It's almost pure profit besides the cost of whatever it takes you to fulfill on your program. So for us, like when I go into these launches, like sometimes I'm doing $150,000, $200,000 in ads. And then we have like $100,000, $200,000 in affiliate payouts, so that's like 400, let's just call it 400,000, maybe $500,000 every launch that I have to pay out to bring these sales in. And it's still profitable. But then when we do the launch and I can start to upgrade the NGM students into NGM Plus, guess what? That upgrade from the 3,000, let's say I had to pay an affiliate commission on it. So they got half the money, I got like $1,500, but then I upgrade them to the higher level program and I made another 9,000. I don't have to pay anything on that 9,000. I didn't have to pay any ad spend. I didn't have to pay an affiliate commission. When I take a renewal, let's say someone came in during a launch and they bought NGM Plus and I had to pay out an affiliate commission, which is like $2,000 or $3,000 on that. I pay it out and then I get them to renew. Guess what? I made my money again. We made another $10,000 or $12,000 without the commission having to be paid out. So that's why renewals are so great, because it's highly profitable. The margins on it are huge, but then you're basically just adding extra revenue to the business without any cost really involved in it. Like maybe there's some sort of like cost for a salesperson or a coach who closed the deal or whatever it may be, but it's very minimal. And so that's why renewals are great. And like, let's just say you have a 50% renewal, but you're doing $1 million on the front end. Guess what? You just added another $500,000 to your business. And it's not even just $500,000. It's like when we look at the profit margins on it, it's like huge profit margins, another $500,000. You probably made more in profit on that than you might have on your first front end of the $1 million. Hopefully you guys are following what I'm saying on that. But having a great renewal process is absolutely key to making more money on the back end. And this also goes to the second thing I said, which is making more offers. And so, some of you may have a program where you don't need renewals or it's done after that. Like you help them finish one thing and there's nothing else to continue with, but you can create an offer for something else. So maybe there's another problem that arises, or maybe there's something else that they need or something else that they want. You can always make another offer if renewals aren't a thing. So instead of renewing, you can get them to go to the higher level program or the next program or the next stage or the next whatever it may be. So we have renewals, we have upgrades, we have a continuation, maybe higher level sort of things as well. And then the other thing that's really underlooked too is launching to your students. And I don't think a lot of people really take this into consideration, but sometimes when we have these new offers, we have like a new offer that we're presenting, or we have, stuff like that. Like maybe it's a higher level program or whatever. Sometimes we don't even need to email our students out. Sometimes it's like inviting them to a student only workshop that you're doing. And then at the end of the workshop, you make some sort of pitch. For us, we have a live event every year. We call that NGM Live. It's just for our students. And so we'll get a couple hundred people that come to this. And we always pitch NGM Plus. We always make a pitch or an offer at the program. And I treat that kind of like a launch. We really treat the event as a launch, because we are making an offer. We are making a pitch. We are trying to get them to upgrade. And so although it is for the students, we do a ton of Q&A, we do a ton of hot seats, we do a ton of workshops, I bring in a ton of experts. It's a really awesome event, but I treat it just like I would a launch, where a launch, I show up for the students 100% to add value, to do all of that stuff. But also we do things in order to help make more sales at the same time. So launching to your students is a very easy, or another way to make more money on the back end. So just to kind of recap kind of what we're talking about here today is that for the follow-ups, you guys can set those expectations and the timeframes of results they should be getting and seeing if they do everything correctly and integrate everything from your training correctly. That allows you to follow up and check in where you're able to hit X, Y, and Z, and already sets the stage or the tone of you may not be able to do this on your own. And they kind of come to their own conclusion that they can't do it on their own. Number 2 is what we call FOMO promo, which we got from James Wedmore, which is basically checking in with them like, hey, it's been 30 days. Have you been able to do X, Y, and Z? Here's what our students have been able to see in the last 30 days. And you just share all these results and then open up cart for them for like a 24 or 48 hour period. That's kind of how we want to do the follow-ups, a follow-up process. And now what we want to do is transition to back-end sales. So what do we need to do to make back-end sales? I'm just going to cover stuff that we do. There's probably way more things, options, strategies, funnels that you can do besides the 4 things that I'm going to cover right now. But we give a credit, a 90-day period for our students to upgrade and use the purchase that they made as a credit to the higher level program. So it gives them enough time to kind of figure out if they need more help or not. And we have the 90-day credit. Number 2 is we make them more offers. So this could be a one-on-one offer. This could be a mastermind offer, but whatever we come out with a new offer or new something, we always run it to our students first. You could run it to your students and your audience first. We always just run it to our students first. We're even thinking about possibly someday coming up with a membership site, and the first launch just to test everything out would really just be to our students. We wouldn't do a big, huge live launch. We would eventually, but we would run it to the students first. Probably give them some grandfathered pricing and low pricing and stuff like that. The next is renewals, which I think is one of the most underlooked or least talked about ways to build revenue inside of a business. If you have, a coaching program that's time-based, running renewals and a renewal process to get more people to renew, figuring that out, mastering that. I mean, that alone could double your revenue if you're a strictly just a coaching business on a time-based thing. Like you could do some really good stuff with that. Even at 25%, you're still kicking butt because it's highly profitable. It's almost all profit. And the last and final part was even just doing launches to your students. So if you're in a place where you're like, Brandon, I'm kind of in a pinch. I don't have a lot of money. I can't really run ads. I can't do whatever. why not just do a student only workshop? Special invite. You have to be a student. This is a free gift I'm giving to you guys. Come on to this training. And then you make some sort of pitch or offer to your students. So you're treating it as a launch just for the students. This is what we do with our event. This is what we do anytime we have brand new offers coming out. Anytime we want to upgrade our NGM students into NGM Pluses, we do stuff like this. And again, the whole reason why I wanted to do this podcast episode is just to spark the idea. Spark the idea that you don't need to just go so heavy with front end sales all the time in order to make more money inside of your business. And yeah, there's things you can do for quick cash injections, like just go to your students and make them some offers for quick money. But if you're smart about it, you can actually build sustainable, real systems and processes that when someone buys, they go through to move them up the pole with you. So getting them to buy another offer, getting them to upgrade to a different offer, there's so many things that you could do. And I would say my guess is about 50% of the revenue we have in our company comes from the back end. It doesn't come from increasing the front end. And the more you master this, the easier your business is going to be, because you just have more money coming in with higher profit margins. So quick little episode this week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please leave us a review on iTunes. I love reading those reviews. And I always love seeing which sort of episodes stood out to you so we can just do more of them. So that's it for this week. Take care, guys. Talk to you next week.
Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, go below, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you click on that bell icon and get notified every time we drop a new episode. Now, if you're looking for the show notes, we have them linked underneath this video, as well as our social media handles and some links to free training and offers that we drop from time to time to help you guys even further. So go check those out if you're interested, and thank you so much for tuning in to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast.